Up next is a limited run games special edition. It is a compilation of two Neo Geo games that they put out for the PS4. They are Savage Rain and Kizuna Encounter. And that is the Fu-Un Super Combo. Now guys, I've already played these games. I have them on a multi-cart on the Neo Geo, and I remember thinking they were really good. As a matter of fact, they were on my wish list to purchase, and I opted for this limited run games PS4 version instead of buying the real Neo Geo cartridges, which can be very expensive. But I have to say, all of these like limited run game ports that I've played so far of the Neo Geo games have been really disappointing. They're like PS4 ports of a PS2 port that's emulating a Neo Geo game. So it's like running an emulator inside another emulator inside your PS4. And all of the ones I've played thus far, like the colors have been blurry and washed out. And there's like, it feels, I mean, they're fighting games and it's hard to tell, but it feels like there's some serious input lag. It's not so bad if you're like playing with a friend, but against the computer, it could just be brutal. It could just be brutal. These games are arcade games and they're difficult to begin with, and playing at a disadvantage with this input delay it's too much. Not only that, these games are really designed to be played with a joystick, and these ports, I don't know why, they have the start button that you need to play the game mapped to the right side of the PS4 touchpad. And I don't know if the people porting this knew this, but most joysticks you get to use on your PS4 don't have a touchpad on them. It's not used, just like they don't have analog sticks. And so I have an arcade machine that I bought, like right over on the other side of the room, that I bought to play arcade ports like this. And I can't play it on there because it doesn't have a touchpad, and it doesn't have a button mapped to the touchpad, which is super annoying. But that being said, let's talk about the games. The first is Savage Rain. And right off the bat, the game, it like defaults to Japanese, which is just so lazy. You can change it to English in the menu, but why it doesn't just default to English on an English version of the game, I don't understand that. It's your standard fighting game. The gimmick is that it has like two planes of attack, and you can throw projectiles from one plane to the other, and you can jump back and forth and attack your opponent in the air if you happen to cross paths while you're both jumping across. It's cool, but it really doesn't come into play much. You spend most of your time just fighting in the foreground like most games. There's some okay characters here. They try to be zany, but mostly they're pretty generic and uninspired, honestly. And so are the backgrounds and the music. It didn't feel very exciting while I was playing it. And it's the kind of fighting game that sort of, it plays well enough, but it puts you to sleep because it's just so pedestrian. But this version on the PS4, it kind of plays like garbage. It just doesn't feel good. I'm not an expert at fighting games, but even on easy, this one was like unforgiving and super difficult, and it just has to be because of that input delay. I played it on my Neo Geo, and it's not this bad. I know the difficulty levels are a little different because on the Neo Geo you can set like dip switches to determine the difficulty, and I'm not sure how that translates to the PS2's menu system that was then ported into the PS4's menu system. But man, it's a different experience and not one that I found to be very pleasurable. The second game on the compilation is Kizuna Encounter. It's much better. It plays better and it looks better, but it still feels like there's some input delay. This one gets rid of the two planes and instead opts to have tag team battles. And you have to like stand in this certain zone in each stage and press the correct button to tag in with your partner. And the real strategy of the game is to keep your opponent away from their zone so they can't tag in. And the reason for that is if either of the team members gets KO'd, it's match over immediately. It doesn't matter if one has full life or not. If one goes down, the match is over. That's kind of cool. That's a better idea than the two planes that the first game had. You have some of the same characters returning from the first game, but they introduce some new ones, and they're way better. They're much more interesting, and I think it's a vast improvement. And the gameplay is more forgiving. You know, I was able to make it through most of the game on my first time through, up to the last boss, where he's just like 30 times harder than everybody else in the game and just absolutely wrecked me. I was barely able to land a hit on him when I was just annihilating all the other characters in the game. He's way too tough. That's classic with arcade games. They don't want you to win. They want your money. It is what it is. These are decent fighting games, I guess, or they're not really decent. They're mediocre to decent. They're more fun with somebody else, as always. But against the computer, I'm not so sure about that. So is the Fu-Un or Fu-Un super combo something you want to pick up? I would actually say no. Although I think the games are like 5 and 6 out of 10. We'll say 5 out of 10 for Savage Rain and 6 out of 10 for Kizuna Encounter. This is like one of the worst ways to play them. Play them in a Neo Geo emulator, or if you have a Neo Geo, dive into that. I don't get the whole like booting up a PS4 game and seeing a PS2 intro screen that loads into a Neo Geo intro screen. It's just too much. It's like the Turduncan of video games. Like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just port the Neo Geo games directly to the PS4? Laziness, that's why. Still, Savage Rain, 5 out of 10. Kizuna Encounter, 6 out of 10. This port, 4 out of 10.